Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Osoyoos regular open meeting of council, July the 27th, 2021 at 2 p.m. in council chambers. I first of all need a resolution to exclude the public. Then in accordance with Ministerial Order M192, the Town of Osoyoos regular open council meeting continues to be closed to the public due to the inability to meet physical distancing recommendations made under the Public Health Act in council chambers located at 8707 Main Street. And that to ensure openness and transparency, accessibility, and accountability, the Town of Osoyoos regular open council meetings will continue to be recorded, streamed, and published on the town's website, and that the regular open meetings be streamed on Eastlink's community channel. I have a motion, please. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King, all in favor? Thank you. Approval of the agenda and late items. There are no late items, Mrs. Hilson. Thank you. Could we have the a motion to approve the regular open agenda, please? Councillor Bennett, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor? Thank you. Adoption of the minutes. Regular open minutes of June the 22nd and the special open minutes of June the 24th. Need a motion to adopt both of those. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you very much. And no business arising from the minutes. We're down to water matters. So this is Water Districts 8 and 9 financial accounts to report on expenditures from accounts payable for water councillors and council to receive for information purposes. So as of July the 27th, cash requirements are in the amount of $41,323.26. So may I have a motion, please? Councillor Appleby, Councillor Morera. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I forwarded a question to Alan earlier last week. I was curious, ATS signals or whatever it was for $2,200. Did we buy manpower from them or did we buy material from them? And I haven't got an answer.
And I'm sorry, Alan is
Away on holiday.
he's on holiday.
I just thought somebody would pick up his email and have a look at it. So
No.
I'll wait for my answer later. Then, I guess.
Sure, and he will for sure answer you, but we
Jim-
just don't know
Jim's
right
the
now.
one who should ask. Whatever.
Any other questions?
I know exactly.
Concerns? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. That's passed. Next is water use restriction report from Mrs. Hilson.
Yes,
Thank you.
actually our CEO, but in his absence, I'll read it. So we've been closely monitoring water demand, reservoir levels, and water production capacity. With the dry, hot weather and busy season upon us, our system resources are being stretched to near capacity and have implemented stage 1 water restrictions in the town and water districts 8 and 9. It's important that we do what we can to lessen the demand for water and to help ensure adequate reservoir levels for firefighting capacity. The province of BC has classified the Okanagan Valley at a level 3 drought rating, severely dry, meaning that adverse impacts to socioeconomic or ecosystem values are possible. The long-range weather forecast is for continued above normal temperatures and below average precipitation. As such, water conservation should be mandated and encouraged. A stage 1 water use restriction will limit watering of lawns to 2 days per week, down from 3 under the normal water use regulation, with even-numbered properties being able to water on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and odd-numbered properties being able to water on Wednesdays and Sundays. Properties equipped with automatic sprinkler systems can water on the permitted days between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. Properties without automatic sprinkler systems can water between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. and 12 midnight on permitted days. Water conservation and regulation bylaws in the town and in the water districts exempt the watering of public sports fields and flowers and vegetable gardens, decorative planters, shrubs, and trees by micro irrigation, drip irrigation, or a hose with an automatic shut-off nozzle from stage 1 restrictions. Because of the exemption, stage 1 water use restrictions may not curb demand as much as we consider necessary or prudent in the circumstances. Implementation will tell. If it is necessary to go to a higher level of water use restriction, we will request that council approve that by resolution. We have issued an e-news notice to move to stage 1 water restrictions, provided information on the website, placed newspaper ads advising readers about it, sent notice to local media, and are providing notice via radio advertising about water use restrictions. Hopefully, these communications will get the community on board with the restrictions and thinking about water conservation and curb the demand. Failure to comply with the stage 1 water use restriction is a ticketable offense with a $200 penalty. Each day of use contrary to restrictions is a separate offense. If council determines that we move to a higher level of water use restrictions now or sometime in the future, we will step up education and enforcement, and we may arrange for electronic reader boards to be placed at key locations in the community advising of the water use restrictions and directing them to the town's website for more information. So implications to the community are continued provision of water to the community and for fire protection purposes. Organizationally, continued monitoring of water demand and reservoir levels and production capacity. The significant dates where the stage 1 water use restrictions were implemented as of July 19, 2021. Sustainability, the continued provision of water for domestic, commercial, and institutional use, food production and preservation of ornamental plantings, trees, and shrubs. Decreased water demand may help to protect ecosystem values. And so options before council are one, that council confirm the decision to implement stage 1 water use restrictions in the town of Osoyoos and in water districts 8 and 9. Option 2, that town council authorize implementation of another stage of water use restrictions in the town and in water districts 8 and 9. Or 3, that town council authorize the continuation of normal water. And staff's recommendation was option 1.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hilson. So I think this should be very easy to figure out because considering what's happened around here in the last week, we certainly understand the need to keep as much water as possible for firefighting and for our agricultural businesses in the area, which need it for sure. So is there someone who would like to, Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move staff recommend option number 1.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett, that's the seconder. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this before we vote on it? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Oh, vote too. Yes, all of you guys can all vote. Thank you very much. That was carried unanimously. And the next item that we have, speaking of water, is the highlights from the July 6th Okanagan Basin Water Board report, which is included in your package. One of the things that I want to note is that we have been quite fortunate in having 2 rototillers on the lake for quite a while this spring, pulling out the milfoil. And we did have 1 green harvester haircut. And unfortunately, when it was necessary to keep the lake free for the planes and the helicopters, the harvester was moved to a different lake, which has a need as well. But they go pretty slowly, and so they might not have been able to get out of the way in time. So that harvester has moved for now. We may get it back. One of the other things is that the water board has written a letter to the provincial government asking for stronger protection of drinking water sources. And that's all up and down the valley. And we see that as a really important thing in watersheds, and just to make sure that we protect that and think about it, because we all seem to need more and more water. So if there's any other concerns about this, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer any questions. So what do we have to do with this one, Mrs. Hilton? Do we just have to file it, receive it and file it? Is there someone who'd like to make that motion? Thank you very much. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. And now we are on to General Sun Bowl Arena and net payroll, financial accounts. And as of July the 27th, 2021, balances, the cash requirements representing balances in the following funds in the amount of general cash requirements, $1,141,285.84. Sun Bowl cash requirements of $11,529.89, and net payroll of $194,808.17. So the options are for council to receive the general cash requirements, Sun Bowl cash requirements, and net payroll accounts for reference above, or to request additional information is number 2. Councilor Rhodes? Oh, sure, go ahead.
I understand how ridiculous it is. There's nobody here, but I am curious about the cash requirements. The volume of money seems extraordinarily high.
Mrs. Hilson, do you have any information on that? And for those watching, some of our staff and Councillor Harvey are on holiday, so that's why they are not here. So our CAO and our acting CAO is also away today, and Councillor Harvey is on holiday. So Mrs. Hilson, are you able to? And if not, we
I
can.
can, if we can come back to it, like I can provide you a
Absolutely.
little update.
Yeah.
I'll send a message off and then.
Perfect. Thank you.
So can we leave dealing with the options until later on in today's program?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll leave that for now. And we will go on to Chief Portmeyer has a report on interior service level declaration for the town of Osoyoos Fire Rescue. Thank you, Chief.
You have the report in front of you, and what I'm suggesting is that we move from a exterior service to an interior service. And it's already been declared by council that we are an exterior service, and I'm in front of you today, Mayor and Council, to ask that we move to the next level of operation, being interior.
Could you explain, a year ago, this was not possible, we were told, and we could only do exterior. Can you explain what has changed so that you're with this recommendation?
Well, first and foremost, it's the service level that we've chosen, dependent on the training program that you're able to provide for the paid-on-call firefighters. At that time, a year ago, there was an idea that they would not be able to undertake the interior service level up until the point that they actually had for the training. That training has now been completed, and following the playbook standard, which is the BC standard for training programs in British Columbia, we can say confidently that we are within the capabilities of providing that service.
Thank you. It seems to me when the new fire hall was built, that one of the selling features of it was that it was large enough and it was capable. They were capable of doing training. Can you confirm that? Has a lot of training been done here rather than having to go other places, which has more costly?
We're speaking about a history that had obviously happened prior to me. But what we've been doing in the past is bringing the training to us so that we can facilitate working towards the standards that the BC playbook is very explicit in what it needs for us to be able to deliver that service. We've brought trainers in, and we're also working for the 1001, which is the NFPA standard for firefighting level 1 and 2. So we have passed almost the entire crew through the 1001 training, which means that they are capable, if they wanted to go out and seek full-time work with full-time paid calls if they chose. Really, that standard is the benchmark of being able to put people into burning buildings. And we've met that mark.
Congratulations. I think that's great. I had one other question here. You said the limitations on services provided by Osoyoos Fire Rescue may be adjusted by an incident commander on scene. Does that require extra training? And if so, how many of the people that work with you are capable of handling that?
It may be appropriate to not go interior with a fire, especially if there's somebody inside where there's no chance that tenable life or somebody has survived inside. So we would have the capability of saying, okay, we wouldn't be going interior in this fire simply because the whole house is engulfed in fire, so we wouldn't be placing people at risk. So we can, before we declared it exterior, we weren't able to go in, even if somebody was 5 feet in the door, we would not have been able to go in contrary to council's decision. Now, if council chooses, we have the appropriate training and equipment to be able to undertake a rescue, as long as it's not a complex building. A complex building would be something that would be very commercial in design, that a firefighter could get lost inside of a very complex building. We used to have them at home, 50,000 square foot, shop fabrication, but it would require that you pre-plan those buildings. So we're not looking at that yet, but being able to undertake a house fire where we could save someone's life, this would allow us to enter onto the premises inside and undertake a rescue. If it's all flames shooting out all 4 sides, we wouldn't be going in. So
the incident commander makes that call.
and yes, and we undertake emergency scene management, which would provide them the ability to adapt those choice points so that they're not placing our crews at risk, which fills that gap for officer development and officer training, being supervisors, looking after teams that may want to go in, but sometimes it's the hard no, especially if it's not tenable like on the inside.
Sure. Go ahead, Councilor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With this new designation, do you have enough funding to keep the training going?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor King, we are already trained to a full service standard, because that's where we'd like to be. The difference between almost all of the levels up until you get to full service is really the complex buildings. The complex building is where firefighters can undertake a rescue without pre-planning. So they can actually go into a building without ever being in it before and potentially putting themselves at risk for getting lost inside. But right now, we're already training to the 1001 standard is the standard in British Columbia and across North America to allow us to do interior fire suppression and rescue. So really, the budgets wouldn't be much different than they already are. That decision was made by the previous administration, knowing that this is where we wanted to be a year ago. Today.
If I heard you correctly, then most of the volunteers have that training?
Yes.
Great to hear.
Is there any other questions or concerns? Is there anyone who would like to?
I'll move option 1.
So option 1 is that council declares the service level for the town of Osoyoos Fire Rescue Department to be interior operations working toward full service, and that the fire chief be authorized to advise the office of the fire commissioner of that and to implement the corresponding training program in support of that declaration. That's what you moved, Councillor King?
Yes.
Yeah. So some Councillor Rhodes, thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. We appreciate that you've got the group to that level. So I'm sure it was helpful last week.
I appreciate council's entertaining of it, because it would not be an easy decision to leave somebody on the inside if it was easily a rescue as well.
So while you are here, Chief Courtmeyer, we just want to say that because we have an audience listening and they're online, we just want to say how much we appreciate what you have done and what our Osoyoos Fire Rescue has done in the last week. They have gone above and beyond that anybody could have ever expected. So we're very happy to have all of you involved and supporting us and looking after our town and our surrounding areas. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, next on the list is the Desert Park Exhibition Society. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's maybe thinking we can have a drum roll.
Oh, good.
At the committee of the whole meeting on June 22nd, council passed a resolution to direct staff to bring a new license of occupation for the Desert Park Exhibition Society to operate Desert Park. Staff has attached a draft partnering agreement that is seeking a notice of intention to move forward. We did receive a legal opinion on the actual agreement. Desert Park Exhibition Society currently expires on December the 5th of this year. Staff has met with the society to renegotiate a new agreement. The issues with the infrastructure, including water, sewer, and electrical, warranted a more detailed discussion of how the society would operate and how the infrastructure would be remedied. The improvements are estimated at $193,000 and were going to be sourced from water and sewer reserve funds. This is currently in our 2021 budget and has been approved, subject to a new agreement being authorized. If council proceeds with the intention to lease, notable changes would include a partnering agreement will need to be instituted rather than a license of occupation due to the commercial activity on site. A longer term of 10 years. Repayment of the improvements, 75% for Desert Park Exhibition Society, and the town will be at 25%. The ability for the society to rent out RV sites for other events. And finally, a meeting will be conducted annually to review the agreement between the town and the society. The current RV sites are in need of repair as two of the sewer services are not operational. The society relies on the income generated from these rentals, and without this source of income, the society would not survive. Staff has confirmed the expense and design with True Engineering. The site layout will include new services for water, sewer, and electrical. Once completed, the RV sites will be an improvement that will last for many years. After the 20-year term, the town will retain ownership of the improvements and will provide a continued economic value to the town. If council approves the agreement, we would anticipate starting the improvements in the fall, bringing the construction activities a little slower and prior to the horse training season starting. Schedule A below shows the area included in the agreement. In terms of implications for the community, this would be a vast improvement in terms of aesthetics and an opportunity to showcase and expand in equestrian and non-equestrian events. Organizational, staff will continue to meet and attend meetings as a liaison. The budget, the RV site improvement was estimated at $193,000 with an expectation for repayment of 75% over a 20-year period. In the event the society cannot fulfill its obligations, or if the society folds, the town under community services can assume responsibility of the RV sites to generate income. Significant dates, obviously December the 5th of this year is the expiration date of the current license of occupation. However, the infrastructure issues, it would be prudent to get something in place ASAP. And sustainability, making the improvements for the RV sites will extend the life of the park for years. This in turn would solidify regular income that would result in improvements to the town's assets. So in terms of options before council, option one, that town council give notice of their intent to provide assistance to the Desert Park Exhibition Society under the terms of a partnering agreement by leasing the property described in the agreement to the society at less than commercial rates of $1 per year, plus an additional $603.13 a month, as described in the agreement, for the purpose of carrying on equestrian and related recreational activities, which would include horse training, equestrian events, and boarding of horses, and the daily rental of RV parking stalls, primarily in association with equestrian activities at the site to meet the society's obligation under the agreement and to support its goals and objectives. Option number two, for council to direct staff to make further changes to the draft agreement and bring back at a later time. And option number 3, for council not to approve a notice of intention at this time. And the recommendation before council is option number 1. A decision should be made as soon as possible to mitigate the sewer issues at the site. It is unsightly and should be addressed due to the nature of the service. If council approve the intention for a partnering agreement, staff will post an ad in the local paper and on the public posting board at town office for 2 consecutive weeks, and finally bring a report forward for council's approval.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. Councillor King.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I have a question. How confident is staff related to them being able to make the monthly payment?
Right now, after meeting with the society, they've actually made a few changes up there, and they've actually purchased a new tractor. And they're actually right now helping with the work for the horses and the other animals that are there. So their income that they're receiving from the stalls, which it was set, a while back, would lead them in a good position to do this. And from the report that we received from the Desert Park Exhibition Society a couple of months ago, their finances would be able to handle this at no problem.
Go ahead, Councillor King or Councillor Rhodes.
Well, thank you, Member Cordo. So I do have an issue, and I think it might take a fairly lengthy explanation, but it has to do with municipalities like Osoyoos competing with existing businesses. I understand why we're doing this, and I understand that we would probably do it anyway, even if there was no opportunity for competition up there, but I just can't get past the fact that some of the wording in the agreement says that they can actually rent it out and be in competition with other businesses in town. And the optics of that are not good, in my opinion, because when you sit here as a mayor and council and staff and that kind of thing, you see the big picture, but often we forget about the businesses in our community that are just as important as the entity at Desert Park. And, I know it's only a couple of stalls and the dollar value is not large, but I know it's going to be done to help pay for the indiscretions up there that we're trying to fix up right now. But at the end of the day, when you're a business owner and you're looking at this and you have empty stalls at your place and they're full, you know how that works, right? And, I don't even know what we can do about it because we have to fix the problem up there. We can't, the only option that we have is just to fence it off and not do anything up there. But, I know it's complex, but I'm hoping that you have some way of reassuring me, but more importantly, some of the businesses in the community that it's not going to have an effect on their individual businesses in town, because there will be pushback.
I do appreciate your question. I think it's important to discuss in terms of competition. One of the reasons when we got our legal opinion to go to a partner agreement was one of the reasons for that. The commercial activity that would be on site, but it's also a town asset. I don't know how much, and again, I could be wrong, but when we looked at some of the common factors or how much other campsites or RV sites are charging, it is way higher, especially prime time service during this time of year. And that's something that we did discuss with the society, and they would, push up their actual rental per month. On the flip side of that, there's not a lot of empty RV sites in town. And the service that's provided at other places is extraordinary. We're talking about a basic service, even though we're improving our electrical, and we have water and sewer, and that's about it. Other places have, free Wi-Fi and ability to do other things for business opportunities, etc. So there is a bit of a mix in there. It doesn't fully answer your question, but it is something that we did discuss, and I think it is a sensitive issue for sure. And I know it's something that should be, put on the table for more discussion.
So I'll let you guys, and just that one thing on the agreement under 6 parking stalls, I had this underlined when I read it the other day, that users, it's RV parking stalls will be granted to users engaged in equestrian activities at the site, that they may be rented to others to raise revenue to meet the society's obligations. I'm just wondering if there has been considered a time limit on there, because I know some people probably stay there for a great deal of time, 6-8 months, I'm not sure, because they have equestrian activities that they're dealing with. If other people are there, I mean, can they move in for the year when there may be other people that require that spot because they're there with horses? Has that part of it been talked
I
about?
really like that question as well, because I do have an answer for that.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for that. When we brought this forward, basically, the main concern was having the ability to have other users outside equestrian in the off season. For sometimes it can be 4 or 5 months where they wouldn't have anything. One of the items that came up, and it would be related to other special events in town where people would need a place where sometimes they wouldn't even be able to stay in town. And we were talking about, the possibility when there's a golf event, and the ability to do that. Now, in the agreement and through discussions with the society, if there was anybody who needed, to use those facilities that were related to equestrian or that were part of the society, they would have first right for sure.
Okay.
And that was discussed. The ability to do that also is part of our zoning. And it's never meant to be a full-time, year-round, entity anyway. So this would be something that's, special case to get more revenue, to have or support more equestrian or non-equestrian events. And that was referred to in my report to help push that along.
I get it. It's just that sometimes when somebody ends up in there, it's hard to say, by the way, we need this spot. Well, I'm just no, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just,
Whatever your name, just Counselor Bennett. See, normally CJ just turns it around so I see it. Counselor Bennett, then Counselor King. Go ahead.
thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, I'm thinking on the thing about where you got it written in here that it's that daily rental. And maybe that's your answer, that it was off season, and when the equestrians come and they say, I'm gonna be here 3 months with my horse. You rent it 3 months based on they're gonna be renting a stall at the same time. If they're there in this off season, they're there for a ball tournament or a golf tournament. If you're doing a daily to a maximum, say 4 days, then you get those weekend people are there for 4 days, and then the other ball teams or people are coming in. That might be a way to kind of regulate a little bit. Because you do it all monthly, you're gonna get.
Yeah, I think some of the discussion around that was just the logistics. When you have people that come in and really at the end of the day, some of the big changes that we have up there right now compared to what it was. And I keep hearing from some people in our community and some other users or some visitors. Well, I've been here quite a long time, and I think this is probably my 15th or 20th or whatever report. And I think at this time, and I think Councilor Rose had mentioned it before, like we do need to do something. And I know it's never an easy thing to do. But it's a long time coming, and we just need to do something. And this is a good thing for the community, not just for the society. And I think that should be given some merit because it is such a good spot. Needless to say, with the camp being set up there now, that may take away from some of those other things, but we still plan to do a lot of stuff up there.
No, I totally understand. I'm glad you have a lawyer who's had a good look at this. Go ahead.
I
Councillor
think
King.
I would definitely support this going forward. I mean, it's a town asset. and We've got a group of people that are actually willing to pay some of the costs. To answer Mr. Rhodes' question, I did ask the board that same question. They assured me that they had talked to 3 of the RV parks that are for profit, and they had no concerns with the few stalls they have up there, is what I was told.
Okay, before we do this, Mr. Davis, can you just, does the fact that the infield and Parks Canada are going to be using that area for a while, would that affect this, this partnership agreement in the short term? And I wasn't sure whether we even had enough time to look at that before, but it may not, but I'm just wondering, it could affect activities on the track.
So Madam Mayor, if you look at this picture here, this area here that's crosshatched or whatever is not part of the agreement. And same with our buildings with the Portuguese Society and the rec center. In essence, the society right now, besides, helping out as much as they can with the animals, are completely open, and they've been willing to do a few extra things. When we met with Parks Canada yesterday, I invited the society because I felt it should be important for them to be part of that. And they were too busy because they had so much activity going on themselves. So what we've done is everything that's on site in the midst of this will be towards the center to the north end. The south end, center to the south end is going to remain as much green space as possible for a couple of reasons. One is to make sure we can still get rid of some effluent. And the other part is there still might be an opportunity for the society to have their car show that they've actually put a special event in. It's a very small show that they're doing. They also invited council and staff to attend that, but they know full well that if this can't happen, it's not going to happen. But there's still an opportunity. So in reality, this doesn't do anything for them. The horses that are there, they can still trot and do whatever. They're not going to be using the track while this is set up because it's too unsafe.
But there's a lot of traffic back
There
and
is a lot of
forth
traffic.
across the
That's
track
right.
in order to get to the infield, that's all.
That's exactly
There
right.
would be trucks and if there's 150 people there plus staff, it could be busy, that's all. So
For
we
sure.
want to make sure everything is safe.
I'd like to move up to number 1.
All right. Option number 1 is that we don't have a second option, so it's just option 1. Is there anybody who'd like to second it? Councillor Bennett would like to second it. Yes, go ahead, Councillor King. Or Councillor Rhodes, I know, put it there so I can see it. Go ahead.
I think, just a couple of questions. $183,000 estimate, how close are we with that? And kind of related to that, the areas that have the hash marks that are not included in this agreement, how do we deal with events that would possibly occur in that area?
Okay.
With both the infield and the ground and building area as well. So, a couple of questions.
Thank you, Councilor Rhodes. So the 193,000 was originally the number that we brought up. That was somewhat inflated just for contingency purposes and not quite knowing exactly where we are. When I spoke to True Engineering again, they stuck by that number because now they do have a good realization of where we are with the supply of products and supplies and the timely effort to get some of that stuff. And they would say, yes, that would be there, but there is an opportunity to come in probably at 150, 160. And depending on how that unfolds, we're not gonna know until we actually get a, you know, a higher estimate or a more realistic estimate. But that would be, in my opinion, the worst case scenario. And just from the discussions with Drew and with our CAO, you know, that is still a little high, but we just wanted to make sure that that would cover it. In terms of events, so this is the actual drawing and what's not included in terms of the infield and the building and whatnot. That's always been part of the agreement. So even if you know, the society wanted to do an event, even if it was on their property that's through this agreement, they should still let the town know. And one of the reasons is for parking. If we had a slow pitch tournament up there on the infield and they were just using the barns or the barn area for some kind of event, and you know, we had 15 or 20 vehicles from the society and we had 40 or 50 vehicles for a slow pitch tournament, then there'd be some issues. So logistically speaking, we just want to make sure that everything is on the table and it's clear. We've also had some discussions. We normally have like a users meeting in the spring to discuss, you know, the maintenance of the track and the use of our fields. And most times we have soccer, the high school soccer, Portuguese men's club, and some of that hasn't happened in the last year, but we still had those discussions.
Go ahead.
Just one further question. You are aware that we had to invest in equipment that was unique to that infield, and my question was more, will there ever be, you know, an opportunity to recover some of those costs? The mower that takes care of that cannot be used anywhere else, and that's a unique thing for that area. And it was a fairly big ticket item. And it always makes people like me feel better if we know there's an opportunity to recover some of that investment. Sometimes.
Okay, anybody else? All right, so we have a motion on the floor that we go with option one, that we give notice of intent to provide assistance to Desert Park Exhibition Society in a partnering agreement. So all in favor? Thank you. That was carried. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
I'll tell Gerald that that was all good.
I'm not hearing a word.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and the best foot forward. So
Yeah,
thank you.
okay.
Well, a
Well,
new truck for the water too.
and you're looking after dealing with all of the people, Parks Canada and that kind of thing that are up there. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I was
Thank you.
gonna tell you something. But
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
So we are now on to the building permit report. And I see that we have 3 single-family dwellings being built, plus a couple of other things to the total of just over 2 million. And year-to-date 18 million too, and last year-to-date was 5 million. So it's been busy. Yes, and there's adding a few things, but 3 some renovations of 3 single-family dwellings that are the big ticket items there. So that's good. I assume that the price of lumber has not gone up any further. Wasn't that the big question?
It's gone down.
Way down.
2
Actually,
by 4s.
Madam Mayor, it's gone down. It's actually gone down a
They've
bit.
gone down. Good.
It's trending down right now, and our building applications are trending up.
Okay. So could we have a motion, please, to receive the building inspector? Thank you, Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. And now, Ms. McKay, we're
Do you
on to,
wanna- We could go back.
I'm sorry.
Approve the
Oh.
payroll, and
absolutely.
to answer your question, Councilor Rhodes, there was an invoice to TwinCon for $501,000. So that would be just about half. And when I was cruising through, it looked like there were some refunds, also for property taxes. So after the due date, they would have been assessed the penalty, and then if the bank proved right that they paid by the date, we would refund, the, penalty. So it looks like that was kind of.
Thanks for looking at that.
So do we need to have the option of council receiving this and vote on it? Am I correct?
Yes.
So if we go back to this, the options are for council to receive for information purposes or to request additional information. So could somebody like to move option 1, please? Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you very much. So we're now on to the zoning amendment bylaw, and that would be Ms. McKay.
Thank you, Mayor McCorduck. So I'm here before you today with report number 1 in consideration of zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.138, common 2021 for property located at 5816 51st Street, which is currently owned by Lawrence Ingenthron and Pamela Schrower. And the applicant for this particular rezoning is Sterling Pacific Holdings. The OCP designation on this property is currently commercial. We're going to discuss that further. And the zoning is M3 or special industrial. And this is a site-specific zoning to add self-storage warehouse as a permitted use to the subject property. Now, self-storage warehouse is defined in our zoning bylaw as a tenanted building for the indoor storage of personal or business items, not including industrial or toxic materials. So the subject property is located again within the M3 special industrial zone, which allows for a mixture of commercial and industrial uses. And the applicant is proposing to build a self-storage warehouse facility. And you'll notice that they provide drawings to indicate what their plan is. And I think they've done a great job of providing council with a lot of information here, which is good to see. So again, in respect to the official community plan, the subject property has a general commercial designation. OCP provides very little direction with respect to commercial uses, except to say that general commercial will accommodate separate zones for shopping center, service commercial, and neighborhood commercial. Now, given the subject property's location within proximity to Highway 3, it's reasonable to anticipate service commercial uses or shopping centers in this area. Now, a review, if you look in the OCP, there's a table, it's like a reconciliation table where they have the designations on the OCP and then the corresponding zones. So within the general commercial designation OCP, corresponding zones in the current zoning bylaw would be the C2 or shopping center commercial, which is like where bylaw is, or Lakeview Plaza, C3 or service commercial, and then of course neighborhood commercial. So the designation of general commercial, therefore, right, okay, supports the use of the property for commercially operated storage warehouse facility. So because it's commercial, right now, the designation, it does support the use of the property for commercial uses, even though it's not actually zoned for that. Which is, I'm assuming, why they have done 2 previous amendments to the zoning bylaw for commercial uses in that zone prior to myself coming on board, or PG. So the zoning bylaw number 1085/1998 is zones the property M3 or special industrial. Now that zone actually allows for, again, a range of industrial uses, but it does allow for storage, but only as an accessory use to trucking operations. The zone also allows for service industries such as repair shops and rentals. What is interesting about the zoning bylaw is that self-storage or warehouse is actually a permitted use in the C1 or downtown commercial zone. And such a facility really is better suited the service commercial or highway commercial zones, which again, we'll be revisiting that as part of our zoning bylaw update, which will be hot on the heels of the OCP completion. So now let's talk about the rationale for town support or town staff support. The M3 or special industrial zoning is not currently compatible with the official community plan general commercial designation. However, the subject property and adjacent area is central to the seasonal and temporary tourist population and should have the ability to serve the needs of the population with uses that are compatible with the current industrial uses. Therefore, in this case, amending the zoning by adding a commercial use to the property would be consistent with the designation of the OCP as commercial, and no OCP amendment is required. Now, again, staff are recommending approval of the text amendment as the proposed use of the site and the design of the project is a good fit for the neighborhood. Furthermore, since the adoption of the zoning bylaw, commercial uses have been added to the zone as follows. In 2002, restaurant was added as a permitted use to the zone. And more recently, you'll recall, in 2016, craft distillery, including tasting rooms and commercial sales, was added to the M3 zone. The future designation of this area, currently identified as general commercial, will be discussed further with council during the upcoming discussion of the town's draft OCP. When consideration may be given to maintain the general commercial designation or consider an industrial designation in order to support a mix of light industrial and commercial uses in this area. And so I'm going to suggest to you that we discuss this further on August 10th when we're doing our presentation of the OCP at the committee of the whole meeting. But as we review and we look at the pressures on industrial uses within our community and not seeing a lot of it, it might be prudent of us to reconsider the current designation of commercial, both in the current OCP and then in the draft OCP right now, and consider whether or not we should be actually considering this as an industrial designation. But then when we review the zoning bylaw, we look at that M3 or special industrial as maybe being a special industrial / commercial zone, which would accommodate light industry in industrial uses all contained within a building and commercial uses, because we do have a lot of residential uses in the area and a lot of other commercial uses. So kind of a mix of those two zones, the industrial and commercial in that site might really be a better way to move forward, because as we know, we have a lot of industrial land. Now let's going back to the situation at hand here, implications for this zoning. The proposed improvements to the property will contribute to the aesthetic upgrading of the area, and organizationally, preliminary development proposal package has been forwarded to outside agencies, including the Ministry of Transportation, for comment, and significant comments received through the referral process will then be presented to council at the public hearing. The notice of development sign has been posted on the subject property as per our land use procedures bylaw, and notification of the public hearing will be mailed or otherwise delivered to properties within a 60-meter radius of the town's of the subject property following council's approval of the application of first and second reading. Now, a form and character development permit will be required, and the draft development permit will be available at the public hearing. But note that the information in attachment number 3 and this report basically is what we would require for the development permit. So the proposed zoning amendment has no implication for the town's budget. Although I would say as a sidebar that the current use of the property with no improvements, little or no improvements on it, obviously doesn't provide any opportunity for taxation, whereas the proposed building improvements obviously does. Significant date, again, notices will be placed in 2 consecutive newspapers, and the property is located within a municipally serviced area, which speaks to sustainability in the town's sustainability bylaw. Now, options before council today are option 1 in 2 parts. 1A, council approves the application, and 1B, council grants first and second readings of zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.138, or option 2, council denies the application. Option 3, council requests additional information. And staff are recommending option number 1. Thank you, Mayor McCordock.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kay. Is the property bare land right now? There's no.
It's
nothing
bare
on
land. There are details about it in the applicant submission. It's bare land, except for a small office and a residential use above, which is permitted under that zoning. And it's currently being used, the outdoor storage of recreational vehicles, which is technically not permitted use in that area, which we do see a lot of in that area, which is another kind of impetus for really thinking about what we want to see there and emphasizing an update of the zoning bylaw that's not really permitted use.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
We'll go around the table. Councilor Rhodes, you're first.
Thank you, Member Cordoff. So that particular area and some of the area kind of going southbound down Lakeshore Drive has been a little controversial with regard to traffic and the impact that
Right.
that it may have with some of the developments that have been proposed. Some are kind of staged to get started right now. This will yet again add to that Do you have any opinion about that? You know, once
Well-
again, there's so many of these things that come up where it's really, really
Right.
easy to identify the problem,
Right,
really, really hard to come up with solutions. And
right,
we just keep adding on and on. I mean, I don't have anything against the proposal or
That's
anything here. Looks like a great thing for it, but once again, it's gonna impact
Right.
traffic and.
yeah. Thank you, Councillor Rhodes, and through the chair, I appreciate your comments, and you're absolutely right. There's no doubt about it, that every time we do something over in that area, we're gonna continue to add to an existing situation. Unless we're willing to work with the Ministry of Transportation and really push hard for that connection at 45th Avenue. And we all know what that means. That means going through that property that we've designated as future development in the OCP for the means of providing access through that agricultural land to 45th only for that intersection improvements, not necessarily for removal of the land from the ALR. Just make sure clear on that in case I was listening. And as a reminder to preempt to our August 10th conversation, they've been very clear at Ministry of Transportation, we got one shot at it, we got one intersection, and the intersection is either gonna be at Lakeshore Drive or 45th. And I would profess that, the Lakeshore Drive is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. So, I mean, I think that we're going to see a solution coming within the next 5 years. And I would suspect that it's probably going to be at 45th. And then we already know that the Osoyoos Indian Band is looking at other developments at that intersection. I think that's really going to sway the Agricultural Land Commission and Ministry of Transportation to continue to push for that corner. So, I mean, I think at this point, we can just make our thoughts be known. And as you know, Ministry of Transportation needs to approve this rezoning. So if for some reason they come back and say that intersection can't support that increase in traffic, then I think that's another, or tipping their hat to us and saying, yeah, we agree. We need to do something about it. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just the property next door is where we park the fire truck. You guys bought that property. And it's cleaned it all up as of the last couple of days. It looks really good. Property in the corner looks really good. There's one piece that's kind of junky in between. This lot right now, I totally support this because this lot right now probably has way more traffic because the guy has rental RVs. What he does is you call and he'll take an RV and he'll put an RV lot for you. So he's probably got 20 RVs stored in there and he's taking them in and out all day long, 7 days a week, moving them from location 1 to 2. So in the wintertime, might be a little bit slower. Right now, it's a really busy lot. So, and I really like this. I think it's good. I think we got get more from the area 27. Yeah, and more of that. We got some high-end people coming to town, so between JFs and here, that's I think it's really good for the community.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I just want a little bit of clarity. I got no problem with this moving forward. One minute you want to pass this, and then you mentioned about waiting for the OCP. Can you just kind of explain that simply to me?
No, I'm not suggesting that we don't proceed with this. I'm suggesting that we proceed with this first off because it's in compliance with the current official community plan. So when someone comes to see me at Councillor Kane and they say I want to complete this application, and I look, well, is it in conformance with the OCP? I say yes. And then what I'm suggesting to you is that the commercial designation of the property right now, or if we want to leave it commercial designation and maybe we have a new commercial zone in the updated zoning bylaw that allows for a service commercial zone. Because right now what they've done is it's designated commercial, but it's zoned industrial. It's very confusing. So what should have happened during the last update of this official community plan and then the subsequent update of the zoning bylaw, as it should have been, they should have been able to mesh.
So if I'm hearing you right, it'll match as you move forward with the
That's
OCP
correct.
and make some changes. No problem. Good. Okay, what they show in the picture, that would look beautiful for the. film.
It does. The picture that they've got shows that should be on Main Street. That's good.
Yeah.
So is there somebody who would like to move one of the?
I'll move option 1A, council approves the application.
Thank you. Seconded. All in favor? Thank you very much. And we also need option 1B, to grant first and second readings for the zoning amendment bylaw. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King, all in favor? Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Mayor McCarthy. I just want to speak briefly, if I can, to Councillor
Yes.
King's comment. And I think maybe that you've hit the nail on the head there. I think maybe it is a better way to leave it as a commercial designation in the official community plan and zone it service commercial and add some uses to the service commercial zone as part of the zoning bylaw update that would accommodate light industrial uses entirely contained within the building. That makes sense? I
Absolutely.
mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another, which is probably why you said absolutely.
Depends which half you're in.
It is, I'm in a full half, the happy half, thank you.
And I have to propose.
So not a problem. I'm glad that we're sort of looking at all of
It
these
is
things
important
in
to
that.
look
Yeah,
at it
it
as
is,
a
because we do
package.
not have a
Yeah.
lot of industrial land, and we need to make sure we consider that.
Better,
Thank
better
you.
mention it to the guys that do the paving on the street, they might have to upgrade them, but they start bringing fancy race cars down.
Well, we will be upgrading. Thank you, Councillor Van. Another good comment, because we're going to be doing that condominium complex across the street, so do some improvements over there, but that's a good idea. Thank you.
I'd like them to improve the highway
Yeah, when they're gonna pave your road.
rather than, well, you should see, they,
Well, it's horrible going down there.
yes, it is down my road, but also the highway's dug up again today, and so they've got, you stop and start, it seems to be
Highway
often.
26th Avenue, 22nd.
Yes.
Just a nightmare.
Yes, it is. Okay, next item on our business here is the report of this chief administrative officer. And is that you today, Mrs. Hilson? Or do you have a report?
Oh,
You don't
yeah,
have to.
no,
You
he
do.
sent it.
Oh, wonderful.
He was on it, actually.
All right, would you like to?
Let me find it for you. Secret thing, I have my email open. Just find it. So for the CAO, I'll just touch on.
Sure.
Several, so wildfire planning, preparedness and response meeting with the EOC group. He had some discussions regarding servicing requests for water and sewer for the proposed Willow Point development. He met with the Desert Park Society and the Director of Community Services regarding their new license of occupation. Discussions regarding transition to the step 3 of the BC Restart Plan and development of the communicable disease prevention plan. The fire chief and the CAO met with the OIV chief and staff to introduce Chief Courtmeyer and discuss fire service and emergency management. Also, he attended an online meeting with the OIV and Director of Operational Services to discuss the request for service for growth on the OIV lands. And lastly, he met with the Director of Planning and Desert Sun representatives regarding the BC housing and affordable housing in the Osoyoos. And then as council and the public's aware, we opened up and worked in an emergency operations center in support of the Ancient Creek wildfire. As for community services, there was a mass immunization clinic at the Sonora Center is steady on Mondays and Wednesdays. And more information can be found on the Interior Health website. There was a pop-up clinic at Jarrow Park, and it was canceled. And then they, in place, put it at the Osoyoos Curling Club, and that was July 15th and 16th. Their summer program has been busy, although the outdoor air quality has been somewhat restricted on the outdoor activities. There's a new kikes camp, and that operated on July 12th to 16th with full registration. Swim lessons started last week. They had to add another 2 time slots as it filled up quickly. Also, public would be aware that music in the park began on July 16th. So kudos to the 3 amigos. And lastly, the Sun Bowl Arena will be opening to the public as of yesterday. And there's a number of summer camps that have been scheduled. For myself, for corporate services, I'm going to posting for relief clerk, relief program assistant extended till July 23rd, so it closed on Friday. We posted for the planning technician, and we took off the posting for senior planners. We're having an issue, so we decided we're gonna try to hire a planning technician. We've also hired a parks maintenance specialist position, as we had a vacancy. Interviews have taken place, and we tentatively have offered that position to somebody. And as council also knows, the AEP process is underway. The deadline for elected response forms to be submitted to the corporate officer is on Monday, August the 9th at 4 p.m. Elected forms must be in the form that was established by the town, and only those who qualify as electors of the municipality are entitled to sign the elected response forms, which would oppose the boundary expansion of the subject properties. And those forms can be found on our website or at the town office. Financial services, property taxes, collections, outstanding notices mailed out to properties with outstanding taxes after the due date. There's approximately 400 notices sent out. The pending tax sale properties, there were 26 to start the year, and they're currently down to 6 properties. June financials are being reviewed and report to council will be coming in the first meeting in August. And federal grants, relief payments for the RCMP and Canada Post have been received. Planning, OCP review, they will be doing a presentation to council at the August 10th committee of the whole meeting in preparation for first reading on August 24th. Business licenses, renewal payments are still being received. Bylaw, boat trailer parking lot is busy. There's been many complaints about after hours of kids partying in Gyro and Cottonwood Park. And so that has been a concern, I think, both with the RCMP and bylaw. MTIs, tickets are being written repeatedly from boat trailer parking lot. Letters are being sent to owners who have paid their tickets. Unsightly properties are coming into the, and the bylaw officer has been assessing whether letters need to be done or not. And building permits, applications are being processed, and they've received applications for single family homes in the development at Peanut Lake. For operational services, installations of water services for new customers, OHS inspection from Work Safe BC, there was 10 orders written. Managing water demands, completed with repairs of the effluent booster station, and letters have been sent to the rural water use about water access points. Ongoing parks maintenance. Our third summer student has started, and swim advisory was issued for Legion and Cottonwood Beach. And they're continuing with the new scale and office trailer design and procurement and ongoing concerns with recycling. And our fire department didn't have a submission, but they were pretty busy dealing with big fires. So that is report.
Good, thank you very much. So could we have a motion, please, to receive it as information? Councillor Bennett, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Hilson. And now we'll go to council reports. Councillor Bennett, you're first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple, school board was June 22nd, and that was the last meeting until September. Based on most of the department heads, like budget and stuff, spoke up to the year end. Then on June 24th and 25th, I had a couple of these meetings with municipal insurance. BC meetings about fire and some of their concerns and some of the other big losses. And then on July 7th, we had self-control on our credit center meeting. That's my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. I'm sure our mayor will be commenting on the firefighting situation, so I'm not going to say too much about it. The job that our firefighters in our community did was nothing less than remarkable. I view each and every one of them. They're heroes in my mind, and they did just a stellar job with keeping that fire out of our community. And I also wanted to mention that when the emergency operations center was being set up in the fire hall, I was able to attend. It was the first one I had ever been to. And I just want to remind everybody that there's lots of people who work behind the scenes. when these situations develop in our community. And they're heroes as well, you know, I mean, it's a dynamic where everybody kind of comes together and we were very, very fortunate with the outcomes. And, you know, I like to recognize some of the people that work behind the scenes and are not part of the public engagement and that type of thing. But all in all, it was just it was a terrible experience, but everybody stepped up to the plate and it was just such a great thing to see that in our community.
Thank you very much. Totally agree. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Accessibility Age Training Committee was held on July 8th. We had a great presentation for Kids Action Coaching presented by Lisa Olson for children with needs. Mr. Davis looked into it and it looks like it's a match for community service. They use some space and complement what we're doing now in community services. Community Service Committee was canceled because Mr. Davis is really involved in emergency operations. You can't blame that. Now, on another note, I guess the mayor was very busy on July 9th, so I was on a conference call with the Wildfire Emergency Management Conference call with Minister Osborne and Parliamentary Secretary Jennifer Rice. And I guess looking at that, there was a lot of questions asked, and the main concerns, is there enough resources? And by putting us into emergency, they definitely announced there is resources for community to tap in to cover some of the costs, is what I really took back. But being 5 days later, I'm sure you're all aware of all the updates and what's going around, especially our community. Like Mr. Rhodes said, you can't say enough about the fire response team in our community and the job they did and the time they sacrificed away from the families. It's just commended. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. So, yes, it's been, we haven't had a meeting for a month, so it's been still a very busy time. So, Councillor King, Councillor Bennett and I are on the South Okanagan Aquatic meeting, looking at possible places to suggest to build an aquatic center in South Okanagan. We're still sort of looking at that, and we have another meeting in about a week, I think it is, to have a look at that. I'd just like to say that I've been on a few of the interior health vaccine meetings, although the fire concerns in the whole Okanagan did require cancellation of one of those meetings recently. We're only having them every 2 weeks. But I saw that they're still doing the clinics in Osoyoos on Mondays and Wednesdays. And I think I can't remember, is it this Friday? I think there's a drop-in clinic in Oliver, the 28th. Is that correct? Maybe it's tomorrow. And so, and they now are allowing apparently family doctors to also give vaccines. So there's certainly many opportunities for people to get them if they haven't done so. I was at the Music in the Park, the first one, and it was 10 days ago, and it was amazing. The group was called Flashback. They sang songs from the 60s mainly, and that was handy because I knew all the words and I sang along with them. And they canceled the one on Friday because of the smoke. But this weekend, being a long weekend in Osoyoos, there is a concert on Friday night and a concert on Saturday night. So you can go to either or both. And I just, Marcel and Janice St. Louis have a counter on their phone, and it's not scientific, but they have a pretty good idea. And there were over 1,000 people there. Now they were spread out, and the dancing was at the back. In fact, Chief Courtmeyer was there, and I said, well, you know what, it's probably a good thing that it was all at the back. We didn't have to watch it up front. They just felt with COVID restrictions, it might be easier to have them in a large area at the back than up the front. But that was pretty amazing, that concert, and there are about 5 or 6 more scheduled for the rest of the start. They start at 6:30, so 6:30 until 8:30 in front of the band shell. And people they brought their chairs and they sat where they wanted to, and there was certainly enough room for people to, have some privacy and stay apart if they wanted. The other thing is, the market on Main, which is on Saturday mornings, was canceled last Friday, and was probably a good thing because it was pretty smoky on that day. But it will be back up and running this week, and it's a great way to get fruits and vegetables and dried flowers and herbs and sauces and bread, and it's a great place to go. So please come out and enjoy that, 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock on Saturdays, right outside Town Hall. And obviously, we have a huge thank you for the, in this town, and several people have contacted the office and phoned me and said how much they appreciated. Our town staff have done a great job of jumping in and taking on a few extra jobs and answering calls and trying to be up to date on all of the latest information. When you consider that it was a week ago right now that this fire started in the South Okanagan, and when we think of the things that have been accomplished in the last week and how much work has been done by not only our fire department, but our EOC, Emergency Operations Center personnel, to set things up and do e-news and make sure that we have the correct information. The fire department, all of them have done a phenomenal job, of course. And the ESS volunteers, that's Emergency Social Services volunteers. They have been, I think they had Sunday off, but every other day they've been up at the center, the Welcoming Center, which is in Oliver at the Legion. And there are 5 people from Osoyoos that have been there every day working on this. Eileen and Judy and head that up, and several others too. So thank you, and thank you to all of the people in this town who have provided assistance to the fire department. As a matter of fact, I think their bridges are full and they can't accept anything more at the moment, but how kind of people to be so thoughtful as to offer assistance. And so it just kind of proves that volunteers and working people in this town hold this in very high regard and continue to help everybody. So with that, we hope that things will improve a little bit. And we're looking for some pretty hot weather this week, which is concerning. So please go in the lake, go and visit places that are in the shade. And we want to also thank the Osoyoos Baptist Church for opening up a cooling center. And they continue to do that whenever that is necessary. So we're lucky, and we've been saved, and it's through everybody's cooperation and help. So thank you to everybody who continues to help. And I don't think that we have anything else on the agenda. So I will entertain a motion to terminate the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Bennett, Councillor King. All in favor?